Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Unified, for inviting me here. And this is a beautiful venue. As Kevin said, my name is Evan, and I have the pleasure of going around and talking about printer security, right? So very exciting, right before dinner. I'm the only thing standing between you and a very delicious dinner. But we'll get through this, and I hope that everyone will learn a few things from this. I'm going to open with a video called The Wolf. It was produced by HP, and it lays the groundwork for everything I'm going to talk about. Has anyone here seen The Wolf? Show your hands, just a couple. All right, so it's certainly worth watching. Let's take a look at it. It's not too long.
Sheep never realize there's a wolf around until it's too late. And they do exactly what the wolf expects them to do. They run into each other, or fall down. They become dinner. Time to eat. They've got no idea I use my phone to hack the OS on that printer over there. And why would they? Not one printer in this place has built-in malware protection. Now, while they're all busy watching a little something I threw up on the control panel,
just look at your screen.
I can intercept all their print jobs until I find the info I'm looking for. Ooh, yeah, today's somebody's birthday. Perfect. The really good stuff is upstairs. The kind of stuff that could destroy any future this grand financial institution could hope to have. I love a good office party. Everyone looks so happy.
Happy birthday.
Especially Janice. I thought everybody would forget her birthday.
Okay.
Not me. Look, Janice, just got an email. What's that? A gift certificate from your favorite spa to honor the big day? How thoughtful. Now all you gotta do is print it. Oh, come on, Janice. It's legit. You just gotta print it out. Come on. We all know you love a good foot rub. That's it. Now I have access to every computer on the network. How, you ask? Well, none of the printers here automatically monitor for threats, so that gift certificate I just sent Janice to print was actually hiding my malware in the print stream, bypassing the company's security. Which means now I can use the printer to get around the firewall and, surprise, access all the unencrypted data and route it to myself. I know it's a mouthful, but it's actually really simple. Because these guys don't automate their security monitoring, not only can I see every document that gets printed in this place, I can see all the good stuff hiding on their computers, too. Now it's a party. Tomorrow's a big day for this place. Looks like they've got a presentation to their most important client about a confidential private stock offering. Sure hope everybody's getting a good night's sleep. They are gonna need it. It's funny how much stuff people leave in the office, huh? It's like they want me to take their personal information. I'm Mr. Vice President of blah, 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 and my life is ruined. These folks have no idea that when they come to work in the morning, I not only have helped myself to their personal identities, but I've gotten hold of their clients' most sensitive financial information. The ironic thing is these guys probably spent a fortune securing their network and their servers. But because no one bothered to arm any of these PCs with the BIOS defense system, my malware is free to do its thing. Oh! Now that's what I call a metaphor. Oh yeah, no, there's a lot riding on this meeting. You might even say the future of both companies. I had some huge elaborate plan to worm my way into the video conference, but turns out I didn't have to. See this dude over my shoulder here? Guy who looks like he's about to wet his pants? Well, he was so nervous, he forgot to pick up the key part of the presentation right off the printer. So now, it's just sitting here, waiting for anybody with an axe to grind to pick it up and share it with someone like me. Because this bad boy doesn't have user authentication, it's easy for print jobs like these to go unclaimed. Bingo. First, I got control of their printers. Then, I got control of their network. Then, I got control of their data. And now, this. All the juicy details of a major acquisition. You can see where they wanted to keep it quiet. Along with everything else I've stolen from this place. These guys are in for a really bad day. Truth is, I don't really have anything against them. And they seem like perfectly nice people. But that's beside the point. Why am I exposing one of the financial world's most important secrets? Because I can. Who knows? Maybe next time I'll come after yours.
That's important. World's most secure printers and PCs. Now, HP Legal lets us say that, and for good reason. And they're very stringent upon what we can say. We are the world's most secure printers and PCs, years ahead of the competition. So Christian Slater did a great job there. I gotta say, best performance since Heathers. You guys remember that movie? Love that one. All right, so protecting your printing. Has anyone here had someone approach them and talk about printer security before? Raise your hand. Anyone? Nobody? Beautiful. This is not uncommon, actually. This has been a endpoint that's been largely ignored. All right, so breaches have changed. I got to point out that HP is in a very unique position. We are the only printing company, only one, to have gone from, we started with calculators. HP started building calculators and they went all the way up to data centers. So in that experience, we've seen how breaches have changed over the years and what is becoming the new trend. And it's no longer, kids in the basement or college students just trying to cause mischief. It's nation states hacking. And they have seemingly unlimited budgets. They want to get into your equipment and they want to stay there forever undetected. They want your intellectual property. So I got to tell you, the cost is on upswing. It's not going to change anytime soon. U.S. is the biggest target too. I mean, we're also one of the biggest culprits. We have the most hacking going in and out of our country, and that is why the cost per document is about $200, whereas in worldwide, the average is around $138. So incidents are going up. They're costing more. A former FBI director said there's only two types of companies left in the United States: those that have been hacked and those that don't know they have been hacked. So, and it's hard to detect too. There is one company that only found it because they had a printer that was just taking a few seconds longer on every print before it would spit out some paper. And they looked into it because it was getting annoying to some of the users. They started inspecting some of the packets leaving the organization. They found that everything that was being printed was being sent over to China. And then it was being printed, and that's what the delay was. And that's just sloppy programming. If they had just reversed it, if the hackers had just sent over the data after it was printed, it would have never been detected. So 146 days to find a detection, if they actually do. We found other organizations where there was U.S. Steel was putting out, finding that their technology was showing up on the China markets for much cheaper. And they found that there was a data breach and everything was going to China. There's other companies that were putting in bids, and every time they put in a bid, they were getting outbid by this other company, and they couldn't figure out why. It wasn't every single bid, but it was enough of them, enough of the big ones. And they found out that it was code injection. Every print job was being sent, and they would inject code to change the bid number to a little bit above or below what the other company was spending, so they'd lose those bids. Now, you guys probably all remember this. Back in October, we had a big, large denial of service attack. It took down about 24 popular websites for the day. And that was important because it brought the term Internet of Things into everyone's mind. The media was reporting on it for sure, and it wasn't the first time that happened. It was a very big public example, and it certainly won't be the last. But that one took advantage of security cameras being hijacked, and they're part of the Internet of Things. Now, to do that, $7,500, that's it. That's all it costs to get the tools to do that on the dark web. Now, that's for something, for you or me or someone else who doesn't know how to do it, but to the right person, that attack could be free. Essentially, all they need is a computer and an internet connection. So Peter Kim, very famous white hacker, he hacks networks and writes books on them so that organizations know how to better protect themselves. And he's best is noticing that he looks around for multifunction printers. They're a neglected endpoint that is easy to get into. So even the most stringent of organizations, government, are only protecting their printers at a 50% rate. We've done such an amazing job protecting our laptops, our desktops, our servers, even our mobile devices that printers have become forgotten. And that's why they are the low-hanging fruit. So I always hear, but I have a great firewall, am I still in danger? You could pour a lot of money into securing a data center with a great firewall, but that's not how they're getting in. And poor Janice, as you saw in that video earlier, Employee of the Year, she waited a few seconds. Most people would just print that out right away. But even her aside, it's not actually coupons that are getting in. It's actually HR with resumes. HP sees this as a big threat because people, untrusted sources, are sending resumes every day to virtually every company. And HR is opening those resumes and printing them. And both those actions can compromise a network. It's important to note, too, that we all know Target got hacked, right, through the HVAC system. They had a great firewall. The IRS, the NSA, those both had wonderful firewalls. I'm sure they spent a lot of money on them. So it's not about the breach. It's about responding to it appropriately, because hackers are going to get in through new and very creative ways all the time. I've heard of some hackers using drones to go up and talk to unsecured printers. So protecting the device isn't enough. We have to detect and recover when there is an attack. So HP has what we call the big three, and this is really important. We're the only ones doing this too. Sure Start, started on PCs and laptops. I kind of see it as the future of device protection. It's a dual BIOS. Now, whenever a BIOS is attacked or manipulated or corrupted or for whatever reason is not the authentic BIOS that should be there, it's detected in a dual backup BIOS that's read-only is copied over. It's called the golden BIOS. So it's self-healing, and it protects the machine. I know a few of you are very techie, so you know that in the day when you upgraded firmware, you kind of held your breath because if electricity went out or if there was a problem, that machine was a brick if that firmware didn't upgrade properly. Not so with Sure Start. Sure Start makes sure there's always a functioning BIOS, and that machine is not going to go down and leave you with downtime. Secure whitelisting, very simple. It means that whatever is installed on that machine has to be sanctioned by HP. It's got to be authentic, genuine HP code that gets installed, nothing else. And HP runtime intrusion detection, that's as close to antivirus on a printer as you're ever going to get. That is runtime memory actively monitoring. So any code that gets into memory that's going to cause any malicious effect is shut down. So here's our big three, and we got Xerox, Lexmark, and Ricoh starting to come along those lines, but they're not nearly to the level that HP has. They're going to require user intervention. They're not self-healing. And we got the Future Smart. Now, back in 2010, anything before that's running Oz firmware. Firmware is important. Oz is old. You could have it completely up to date, but it's like updating Windows XP. You can have Windows XP completely up to date. You wouldn't want to put that on your network. It's not safe. So HP created FutureSmart, and it's not just another firmware. You know, this is more like an operating system that focuses a lot more on security. And it has these big three in here. First, early versions of FutureSmart were doing all three to different levels. You upgrade that, they're going to get better protection over time. We have a compliance tool that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes, but we saw in the Wolf too, as Christian Slater was picking up a document right off the printer. That's a security breach right there. We had a very famous actor whose name eludes me at the second, but his medical records are picked up right off a printer and leaked to the press. And that led to a few people getting fired and a bunch getting suspended. It's huge. So we have access control with secure authentication, which means that the document does not leave the printer unless the authorized person is at that printer authenticating. So protecting the organization, policy. Now, a lot of organizations implement policy on their laptops and desktops. George Clooney is the actor. A lot of organizations offer policy on laptops and desktops. They lock down certain features. And you can do the same thing with printers. Now, there's third-party policy tools out there, but they're not to the same depth that HP offers. Now, there's over 250 security settings in a printer. That's a lot. Even if you have an unboxing procedure and you say, I'm going to set XYZ, how do you know that XYZ are still set 6 months later, a year later? If you have a circuit board replaced in that printer from a servicing, how do you know that that setting is still there after that service? There's a lot of settings to put in there. So Security Manager makes that easy. It's the only control panel that allows you to set all those settings, push them out, monitor them for everything. So you would add devices, you create a policy, you're going to set XYZ, you're going to assess and get reports. I mean, how cool is it you can get reports on your print fleet? When was the last time you saw an executive summary about your printers? And we're the only ones that can do this. Renew certificates from a certificate authority. That is huge. This is our old interface. We've moved to a web interface. But in the same spirit, everything's the same as far as you can set passwords, you can set what settings are enabled, disabled, the weight of how you feel, how dangerous it is. And you get reports. And this probably should be reversed. I probably should Photoshop it because most of the time, even if you think your printers are pretty secure, they're most often going to be in the red. So we also offer the security advisory services. This is kind of cool. This is where we send in the equivalent of SEAL Team 6 into a network to see. If it's a total mess, they look at everything. They don't look at just the printer settings. They're going to look at the switches, the servers. They're going to look at the print server. They're going to look at the policy you have, everything. And they go in and create a comprehensive plan, and they check up on you. So it's a 3-day on-site evaluation and optimization. So HP wants to lead the industry as the most responsible printing partner. I think we already have done that as far as reputation goes. I mean, how many people have printers that are older than, 20, 30 years? This old yellowed 4000 series that just won't die. So we're known for our printers that last forever, and we want to be known for our security too. And this isn't anything new. Security has been around for a while in HP. We were the first to create a lot of different print technologies that make us safer. Encrypted hard disks, that is awesome. In fact, you can't buy a printer right now that doesn't have encrypted data at rest. So, like I said, high reliability, long life products with future extensibility. We pour a lot of money into R&D. That's so important. There are some vendors that haven't touched or upgraded their printers other than aesthetically over the last 20 years. I'm not going to say any names, but they're out there. We want to maintain a healthy 2+ year security lead over any other vendor. One thing I didn't touch on is the service downtime. We are now in the A3 market. We make copiers. We bought Samsung. We spent over $1 billion investment into getting into that space. And we are making our printers in copiers with the idea that anytime a part needs to be serviced, it needs to be modular so that the downtime is very small. Getting that part in is easy. It's not going to take all day. Copiers have a terrible name, which is why HP doesn't call them copiers. When we got into the A3 space, call them A3. Because copiers has a reputation of, oh, I know my copier repair guy by name. This is terrible. It's a terrible experience. It breaks. It's down for the day. It's down for 2 days while they're putting in belts and wheels, and we don't do that. So I got one more video that will further drive home the idea about printer hacking, and then I'll take some questions.
We're in a more dangerous place now than we were 20 years ago. We can now, from halfway around the planet, take society back 100 years through software. If we ever come to a point where we're actually engaged in full-out cyber war, the future is going to be an arms race.
I'm in Manhattan to meet a team of white hat hackers who focus on embedded systems, the unseen components that control devices around us, from tiny gadgets to large-scale tech infrastructure. Red Balloon Security is headed up by Ong Sui. They recently developed an exploit which allows them to effectively bug embedded devices without physically touching them, exposing sensitive data and leaving them vulnerable to malicious actors. They've worked with everything from printers to monitors to drones, all kinds of machines that we rely on every day, and they're going to show us just how insecure they can be.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing? Come on in.
Yeah, good, thank you.
This is where we do all of our shenanigans. There's my desk. That's the data center. This is where we do all of our hardware takedowns. When we look at a new physical device, it's very important for us to understand how that machine is made, what's really inside, what the software is, what the hardware is. And a lot of times, we just take it apart. We take apart dozens of these things. There is a big old bin of phones that didn't make it.
These are all ones that you've teared down to try stuff out on them.
Yeah, poor little fillers.
It's like a phone graveyard.
Ong wanted to show us some hacks they'd done using a piece of malware he affectionately calls Funtenna, which exploits radio frequencies, RF signals, to turn office equipment into bugging devices.
So Funtenna is basically using software and all of the common pieces of hardware that you find in basically every embedded device to force that hardware to transmit an RF signal to exfiltrate data. Right?
So that's a radio frequency?
Over RF, yes. Right? So if we had software that pushed electrons through this wire in a predictable way, then Maxwell's equations say we can induce a magnetic and electric field, and then we're going to get an RF signal that we can receive with all sorts of standard radio receivers, basically using only software. So what we did is basically reconfigure the software-controlled input pin to go to output, so we can actually convince the phone that it's really off the hook when it's not off the hook.
So you basically placed a bug into a meeting room or wherever the phone is?
Sure, through software. Right? So nobody had to sneak into this room, nobody had to tamper with the phone. It was all just software through the network. And in this case, it was software delivered to this phone through a printer. And we get the exploit to the printer through a resume. So we send you a resume. The resume rewrites the firmware on the printer to do whatever we want. And what we want to do is find all the phones. So that once we find the phones, the printer goes out and exploits all the vulnerable phones, and now we have eyes and ears in every room.
Right, let's see what it can do.
Okay, so, well, it's been doing it all this time, right? So we're gonna look over there, right? Our entire conversation was, exfiltrated to my laptop, and I guess I can turn the volume on and we can hear what it sounds like. Okay, so we're gonna talk, right? And there's a slight delay, maybe a little bit of an echo, right? But the audio quality is actually pretty good. And on later versions of this attack, we were able to do live speech to text. So instead of sending out all of the audio data, we just had the phone tweet everything that was being said.
So you're tweeting out everyone's secrets?
Yep, pretty much.
Ong then showed us how the Funtenna software could make a printer spill secrets by leaking information through RF signals. he could pick these up using an antenna. In this case, a cheap AM radio he named after a famous actor.
I'm going to show you a really cheap AM radio, right? This guy's called Tom Cruise, and we're going to see what Tom Cruise will say about Fontana.
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to turn on and see if we can.
The exploit caused the printer's components to vibrate and transmit the data as if it was Morse code. With a powerful enough antenna, a hacker could intercept the signals from a distance without ever going near the printer.
To an AM radio, that's what it sounds like, a tiny little beacon.
So that's the sound of the data that you're extricating.
Yep, exactly. There you go.
How can you turn that into something usable?
So we'll show you. And this is where this computer does this thing. So what you're looking at here is the RF version of Fontana, right? We have the software-defined radio, we have the antenna, we have the printer transmitting over here, right? And what's going on is the antenna is piping into this tiny little box, which is being processed on the laptop, and you're seeing the same beep, 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 beep you're hearing in the AM radio. And what our software is doing is basically taking these tiny little dots, right, turning it into binary, and then decoding it over here. So the sky above the port was the color of
Television. So it's the first sentence of Neuromancer.
yes, the first sentence of Neuromancer. Right? So basically we can send out whatever data we want from pretty much all sorts of embedded devices that you have all over the place. And ta-da!
So say someone was printing off some sensitive documents. If there was Fontana loaded on that printer, then you could grab that sensitive information using an antenna
Yep.
and translate it back into something that you can understand.
Yeah, and even more, if somebody was saying something sensitive on the phone can send that information to the printer, and the printer can Fontana it out, right? Or you grab some information on the printer, you can send it to the phone, and the phone can Fontana it out, right? It's there's nothing special about this printer that's allowing me to do the Fontana transmission, right? Every embedded device effectively has the same hardware that, in theory, can allow me to transmit information out in this way.
So we're not just talking kind of office secrets. This could be military secrets,
Right,
power station.
Whatever reason you want to build a steel-enforced concrete bunker, right? Yeah.
Ong's Fontana hack is clearly pretty advanced, and what makes it particularly impressive is how it can transmit data using radio frequencies. This means it could send stolen information through walls without a hacker ever having to enter the building.
It's quite scary to think about all the systems that could fall into the wrong hands. You think about securing your laptop, your phone. You don't necessarily think about all the other devices that hackers could use to break into a network. So we're hearing the Fontana code.
This obviously doesn't have a speaker, it doesn't have a microphone, right? We're making this acoustic emanation by effectively causing the passive components to vibrate.
So I could tell you guys all day long that printers are vulnerable devices, but isn't it something else seeing it? It's incredible, and it's not just the idea that your printer could be compromised, it could be spread to the rest of the network. So hopefully you guys have learned something new about printers in their capabilities. I mean, people think that all they do is print, but they're such capable devices. They have everything that a laptop has, essentially a hard drive, operating system, network connectivity. They got a full FTP server in there. It's not watered down. It's a full FTP server. In fact, people think that you have to just lock down the web GUI, the web server, with a password. There's a minimum of 3 different passwords on a machine to create any kind of baseline security. So let's see, any questions we have that I can answer in the few minutes I have remaining? None at all. Mic drop. We're good.